This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. We begin with the very latest on COVID-19 case counts here in the territory. The latest numbers from the Virgin Islands Department of Health show there are currently 51 active cases throughout the VI. There are 23 cases in St. Croix, 27 in St. Thomas, and 1 in St. John. And through the help of thousands of vaccinations and the number of COVID cases staying fairly low, the USVI is moving forward with releasing some of its restrictions for residents. Governor Albert Bryan Jr. announced a few of them at his weekly news conference and tells our Ali Born-Vanek about other restrictions that could be lifted if things continue to improve. Here's Ali with more.
Emily, a lot of new information coming out of Government House on St. Croix when it comes to COVID-19 in the territory. First, the health commissioner announced that there is now funding via FEMA for families who have lost loved ones for COVID-19. She's encouraging anyone who fits into this group to reach out to FEMA and go through that application process. When it comes to restrictions, there is good news. The governor announced that beach restrictions are being lifted, which means that here in the territory, you no longer have to leave the beach at 5 p.m. on the weekends and on holidays. Also for restaurants can now push tables 4 feet apart as opposed to 6 feet apart. These restrictions are being lifted because more people are getting vaccinations. We are 15,000 vaccinations away from the 50,000 goal in the USVI, and also the numbers for COVID-19 are staying pretty low. Here's more.
The beach one was the biggest one that I heard people complaining about why we have this beach restriction. And of course, you know, I talk to people all the time. So the poker run last week was a litmus test. We did what we needed to do to keep people safe. We had 600 tests run on Saturday. We had 2 positives a week later. That's a good sign. We're not out of the woods yet. So now we're saying, okay, we can have these events and have it controlled. So the beach lifting was the first step, and the restaurant closing in. We want to make sure, we want to get to this 50,000. We're planning to have like a really big celebration, like FET-wise, having foreign as well as local bands come to the Virgin Islands, and there'll be vaccine-only events. We have one coming up on April 30th that's being sponsored by our Carnival, our Festivals Committee. But we want to do something even bigger for the public. But people got to get vaccinated in order for us to do this. I don't think the mask is ever going to go away, at least not for another year or so. I think that works really well. And we're going to still try to control what we do. You know, the health commissioner and I work very closely together to take this slowly. And while, you know, the thing I want people to recognize is that, like, we could do it if we didn't have anybody else coming in. What really scares us are the surges and the, what do you call them?
Variants.
The variants. We don't know. We haven't identified any of those as yet in the Virgin Islands. We want to keep it that way. So we're not really worried about us, but we are in the business of welcoming people here. So we just want to make sure we keep ourselves safe.
And another restriction that the governor and his administration are considering to lift would be the 11 o'clock last call for alcohol sales. But again, they have to see that the number of vaccinations are going up and the numbers of COVID-19 remaining low for them to make that kind of decision. In St. Croix, Ali Born-Vanek, USVI News.
Thank you, Ali. And because of vaccinations and lower case counts, good news to report for travelers. Ferry service is back in the Virgin Islands. British Virgin Islands has reopened its seaports to ferry service. The BVI's regularly scheduled ferry service will now operate between Roadtown Tortola and St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. For now, 3 companies will be operating service: Smith's Ferry, Roadtown Fast Ferry, and Native Sun Ferry. Smith's Ferry will be operating on Mondays and Thursdays, Roadtown Fast Ferry on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and Native Sun Ferry will be running on Wednesdays and Fridays. Meantime, the White House starts a $150 million push Monday to help more Americans get a COVID-19 vaccine. Here in the Virgin Islands, the COVID vaccine has been available for anybody over 16 for some time now. But just as of Monday, that's the case for the entire nation. The focus for the White House right now is on helping underserved and vulnerable populations access the shot and convincing skeptics it's a shot worth taking. In mid-December 2020, critical care nurse Sandra Lindsay received the first COVID-19 vaccine shot in the U.S., setting an example she hoped others would follow.
I trust science. What I don't trust is getting COVID-19.
4 months later, the CDC says more than 130 million people 18 and older have had at least one shot. That's just over 50% of the adult population.
Getting a vaccine will help protect you. It will help protect others, and it will help us end this pandemic.
As of Monday, anyone 16 or older in the U.S. is eligible to be vaccinated. The Biden administration estimates 9 out of 10 Americans live less than 5 miles from a vaccine site. Yet so far, Black and Hispanic Americans have gotten vaccinated at lower rates than their share of the population. Dr. Anthony Fauci says leaders who question the vaccine are playing politics with public health.
On the one hand, they want to be relieved of the restrictions, but on the other hand, they don't want to get vaccinated.
At the same time, the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine remains on pause by the CDC and FDA after 6 cases of rare blood clots among women who received the vaccine. That's fewer than 1 in a million. The U.S. Surgeon General says a decision about how to move forward is just days away.
A signal was seen. It's being investigated. That's what you want, to know your vaccines are both safe and effective.
Johns Hopkins University says more than 3 million people are getting a vaccine dose each day. Public health officials hope they're just getting started. COVID vaccine manufacturer Johnson & Johnson is coming under fire for stoking fears about vaccines made by Pfizer and Moderna. When news broke that Johnson & Johnson's COVID vaccine might be linked to blood clots, the company responded reportedly by pointing a finger at Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines. J&J issued a media statement which said a study showed there were reports of blood clots with vaccines from the other companies as well. But according to the lead author of that study, the research doesn't show that at all. In fact, Johnson & Johnson's shot is the only one authorized in the U.S. with reports of blood clots. Of the more than 7 million people, again, who received the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine, at least 7, which is fewer than 1 in a million, have experienced very rare blood clots in the brain. So it happened to 1 man during clinical trials and 6 women during the vaccine's rollout, which has now again been put on pause because of those blood clot concerns. Last Friday, the Wall Street Journal reported Johnson & Johnson sought help from Pfizer and Moderna to look into reports of blood clots, but both companies declined, saying their vaccines appeared to be safe. The World Health Organization warns the COVID-19 pandemic is at a critical point with thousands of deaths confirmed per day, and it's not showing signs of slowing down. At this week's global daily news cases, well, they're nearing all-time highs of January that we saw. John Lorink reports.
More than 3 million people worldwide have died of COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, according to Johns Hopkins University. As for the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says nearly a third of adults in the U.S. are fully vaccinated. But health officials say the country is not in the clear.
Even as we accelerate our efforts to get shots in arms, more dangerous variants are growing, causing increases in cases with people without immunity.
This week, Johns Hopkins reports more than 20 states have confirmed at least a 10% hike in daily average positive infections.
The increasing trends in cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are very concerning, and they threaten the progress we've already made.
The University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation says the U.S. didn't make much progress against the virus this week and forecasts 58,000 more COVID-19 deaths by August 1st. And while some Americans are hesitant to roll up their sleeves for a shot,
we're not saying we'll never get it. We just want more time. We want more research. We want it FDA approved thoroughly before we actually put it in our body.
Experts say it's necessary to win the war against COVID-19.
Widespread vaccination is the only way we will ultimately move past this pandemic.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
That's your latest COVID-19 news. Now to news across the world. Flags at Buckingham Palace and at government buildings across Britain returned to full mast Sunday, a day after Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, was laid to rest in Windsor. Queen Elizabeth bid farewell to her husband at a funeral Saturday. The service celebrated his 7 decades to service to the crown and his wife of 73 years. It also gave grandsons William and Harry the chance to talk in public for the first time since claims of racism threw the family into a bit of a crisis.